every drop count. Make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every drop count. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every drop count. Save the water whenever you take in your shower. Every drop count. Make saving the water your business every hour. The water, the water, the water, the water right now. It's up to me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
Do just one thing.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Waterline from the St. Kitts Water Services Department. My name is Jamie Morris, Communications Officer in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Energy and Utilities and Domestic Transport. And I am pleased to have with me two representatives on the Waterline today. They come from the St. Kitts Water Services Department in the persons of Assistant Water Engineer with responsibility for production and distribution, Ms. Deandra Jean-Baptiste, and we also have the Production Manager for Desalination, Mr. Francis Zelaya. Thank you for joining me this morning. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. Thank you for having us today.
It's my pleasure. And there's always so much to talk about in relation to water. Today, our focus really is going to be on production and distribution. And tied to that, obviously, is desalination. So we'll begin the conversation this way. Can you very generally give us a sense of what your responsibilities are in simple terms so that our viewers and listeners can appreciate what it is that you do? Let's start with you, Francis.
All right. So, again, plant overseer for desalination plant. And in general, we want to, when it comes to desalination, we want to make sure we're maintaining the quality, right? We have to make sure we keep up the standard. And so we look into making sure that we yield or the outcome is at the highest quality. One. Two, we also have to make sure that we maintain our pumps to make sure that everything is running as efficient as possible. So the daily operation would include daily maintenance of these pumps, daily maintenance of other areas that is related to water quality.
Thank you. And Ms. Jean-Baptiste?
As Assistant Engineer for Production and Supply, I am responsible for managing the island water resources, whether it's groundwater from our pumps or surface water from the guts and desalination water. My role is to monitor the quantity and the water supply to other areas, all areas in Bastier and around the island as well.
So very critical tasks. Obviously, we are in a climate now where everyone's eyes seem to be on water. Right?
Yep.
So let's continue the conversation this way. And based on what you do, obviously, I did say it's very critical. Why is the conversation around water production and distribution so critical right now? And I'm not asking you simply as a regular consumer, but you do have the appreciation of what goes on behind the scenes. So perhaps you can give us a little bit of insight there as well.
The conversation is very critical because currently our demand exceeds our supply. So we have to be very strategic in distributing the water so that everyone can get a steady supply.
It's interesting that you said that because I was listening to another interview very recently. That interview featured the water manager and engineer, Mr. Cromwell Williams, and assistant water engineer, Mr. Landreth Michael Isaac.
Okay.
And it was stated effectively that when it comes to supply and demand, we are roughly about 1 million gallons per day short when it comes to that. And when I heard that figure, I was a little bit startled, and that's why I appreciate, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners can as well, how important the work is that you're doing now to bridge that gap, because we are in novel territory, as it seems, with respect to our supply and demand gap. So let's turn now to the current state of water production and desalination. How do you balance water production, the increase that we have? Obviously, construction and other drivers push that demand upward, but how do you balance that with the supply that we seem to want to safeguard and protect?
Okay, so currently we operating at maximum production supply. So all our sources, surface, ground, and desalination are being used. Also, we have insufficient water now, but with the completion of the Bastier desalination plant, more areas will get 24 hours supply.
And what are some of the technical challenges that you face? Because I'm aware of some of them because I field some of those, let's say, notices, that information that has to then be funneled to the public to explain why they might be out of service for a particular amount of time. So what are some of the technical challenges that you face in managing the island's distribution network? And I do want to stress here that it is the island's distribution network. It's not a subset. It's the entire island. So can you tell us about that?
Maintenance, for one, because a lot of the distribution network is a bit old, so we have to do a lot of maintenance, and so that during these times the community might not receive water. And then another challenge is new homeowners. They're currently building their homes at the level of our tanks, so we are undergoing some new projects to build tanks at higher elevation so that everybody will get good pressure in their system. We're also trying to interconnect the distribution network that will be linking our water infrastructure across the island so that water will be more distributed at a wider reach.
Okay, and I'm glad that you mentioned those two things because I've fielded complaints, my assistant has as well, where people are asking, why don't we have water? But it turns out that they're at higher elevations.
Yes.
And one of the things that we try to do from our end is to drive that message of conservation because I don't think that people really do appreciate, as you just said, that they're building at levels above your tank, at your tank level. And so to get the water even higher requires a little more work.
Yes.
So there are things that you're building out, and it's good to know that. But also, on our end as consumers, conservation is definitely key.
Definitely.
So now to some exciting things. And it seems like everything in water services really is exciting right now. But we're talking about new water sources and infrastructure. You did mention, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, that some of the distribution network is aged. There are things that need a lot of attention regularly. And so we're turning our attention now to new infrastructure, also new water sources, because obviously we are at a state where our demand far surpasses the supply. So what new sources are being explored, and can you speak to, particularly, because I'll leave the other part for Francis here, but can you speak to any new wells that are being drilled and any other initiatives?
Yes, apart from the new Bastier desalination plant, we also have our new well drilling program. We're currently in the phase of finalizing the contracts. So later this year, we'll definitely start drilling new wells around the countryside, starting from Sandy Point, Newton Ground, St. Paul's, going all the way around to Keon. We plan to drill 10 new wells, and we currently did our drone survey. So we already know where we're going to dig the wells. So we are very excited about this project.
And I love the way you glossed over that, but that's actually something that's very critical and important to highlight. You know where you're going to drill those new wells. So I did hear the water manager and engineer speak to some approximately 10 to 13 wells that should be drilled. Are you saying now that you've identified all of those locations, or if not, how many roughly?
We identify roughly 8 of these locations, yes, and we're just waiting on the final report from the survey, the drone survey, so that we can identify the other areas.
Okay, no, that's very fascinating because to add some context to what I understand the minister has said before, and also why it's so significant to drill the wells in the areas that you've outlined, is because it seems to be that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be that those areas at the northern end of the island typically get a little more rain than the others.
Yes.
Okay, great. So at least I'm listening. Hopefully our viewers and listeners are doing the same. All right. So we continue our conversation this way. The criteria, and I suppose you just touched on it, but what criteria does the department use when selecting and developing new water sources? Obviously, rainy locations would be one of those things. What else can you tell us?
We definitely look at the quantity and the quality of the potential sites. Also, we have to look at the environmental impact, because we want a sustainable water supply which will last us years and years and years to come. And yeah, we just provided a reliable water source.
All right. So is it just me, or do things seem to be rather moving relatively quickly with respect to building out these new sources and drilling? Because it wasn't too long ago that we had this conversation about the drone survey that was going to take place to help the Water Services Department identify these areas.
Yes.
Dr. Roland Hogue was here. We talked in that conversation about the technology that he was using,
Sure.
environmental considerations as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he said that was very fascinating to me, and I think that our viewers and listeners can benefit from being reminded of that, is that the wells, as far as I'm understanding, the locations that you're actually surveying for the drilling of the wells would tend to be a little higher above
Yes.
ground.
Yes.
Can you explain to us the significance of that?
To be
Higher.
above ground?
Yes. As in higher, not above ground, but above sea level.
Oh,
So effectively.
okay, I get you.
Okay.
So we will definitely be drilling higher above sea levels so that some of the wells will be very deep, and we don't want any saltwater intrusion. So that is why we'll be digging higher.
Definitely. And that, as I listen to you and we have this conversation, every week it seems to me that more layers are being added to it so that people can get a better understanding
Yes.
of all of the considerations that go into play to make sure that we return to 24-hour service. And of course, one of the biggest developments that we've been talking about in just the past year is actually desalination. And we're shifting now to the Bastier desalination plant. But before I get my questions underway, I do want to remind our viewers and listeners that you too can engage with our guests here today. So I'm going to give you some numbers very quickly. Please write them down, or if you even want to dial as I am speaking, do that. The first one, 465-1977. The second, 465-1903, and the third, 662-8674. Feel free to call, ask your questions, make your comments. The experts are here. So as we continue, highlight Bastier desalination plant. That is one of the things that everybody seems to have been talking about in the recent year. Why? Because Bastier, and I live in Bastier. Bastier has been without water, much like some of the other parts of the island, for a very long time, to the point where it has become the new normal. But we don't want it to be the new normal anymore, and you have been working hard to ensure that it does not. So, Mr. Zelaya, returning our focus to you, what can you tell us about the plant in relation to where the project currently stands, and in terms of even the development and construction, if you can? Where are we now?
So when it comes to the Bastier desalination plant, we are currently in advanced stages of construction. We've seen that our 500,000 gallon water tank has been built already. We've had some equipments installed already, and that includes some vessels. However, the filters has not been installed as yet, but we are gearing towards that. We have the shell of our structures has been maybe completed around maybe 75%. A lot of our infrastructure when it comes to the desalination plant are already in place, and so this is why I mentioned that we are in the final stages now. So when it comes to the commissioning now, we are a few weeks out, I would say, and so I would like for the St. Kitts and Nevis people to look forward to commissioning of the desalination plant.
Wonderful. So you heard it from Francis, obviously something to look forward to. And again, people have been anticipating this for a very long time, so the fact that we're here now is a very good thing. I think at last count, if I were to project as to roughly how much of the site has been completed, last that I heard roughly about, I'd say 2 weeks ago, it was about 90%, so maybe we're around 92, 93% now, a little higher, getting close to the end.
Yeah, we're getting very close. Our intake line and our rejection line has already been laid out into the sea. As you know, that the intake and the outlet are placed out into the sea. One would be 1,000 feet out, which is the intake, and then the discharge line would be around 500 feet. The discharge line is very critical, being that the water that is rejected or that goes back out into the sea is highly concentrated with salt, right? And so we have to pay keen attention to this. We want zero economic when it comes to ecosystem damages. So this is why we have to pay keen attention to that. But the way how we did it, it will definitely not be an issue. The water will get dilute when it goes out into the sea at that 500 point perimeter, and with the wave action, the water will definitely come back to our level.
Okay, great. So again, we've been talking about desalination, and I know that a lot of our viewers and listeners appreciate the fact that that is one of the prongs that the Water Services Department has been using to ensure that we can bridge that gap between supply and demand. Obviously, drilling new wells is another part of that equation. Desalination, in very simple terms, if you can, what is it?
Desalination is the process of turning salt water into fresh water through a series of filtration, right? Initially, it goes through the first filter, which would be a multimeter filter. This filter filters out the largest particles out of the salt water. It there goes to a second sedimentation filter. It filters out the smaller particles that the sand filter was not able to. Thereafter, we have some high pressure pump and ERDs that work together to increase the pressure so it can pass through what we call semi-permeable membrane, which is the main part of reverse osmosis saltwater desalination plant. It goes, the high pressure forces the water through these membrane filters, which separates salt and other minerals, or unwanted minerals, I should say.
And added to that, we've had this conversation before, is the fact that there is improved quality. As I say that, I think that you and I were kind of sparring about it, playfully, of course, that I'll just let our listeners know, you said that you begrudge me for living in Bastier because I'll get very good quality water when the desalination plant comes online. So let's talk a little bit about that quality. How can we assure that?
When it comes to the quality would be of the highest standard. We have to make sure we do our water quality test when it comes to chemical and bacteriological tests. But in terms of taste, the taste is neutral. Some may even say that it tastes better than your water, the bottled water that you buy at the store, as long as it is done the proper way, right? Once we use the reverse osmosis membrane, we separate all the salt and the minerals, but we have to do what we call post-treatment, which is adding back some minerals into the water for safe consumption.
Okay, great. So I did mention the two-pronged approach that the WSC, the Water Services Department, is taking, and in your own words right now, I want you to tell me why, and feel free to jump in, why desalination is a viable option for Bastier, considering that we're also drilling wells in the northern part.
Aside from drilling wells, I think desalination is the next best alternative. We have water all around us, right? We don't have the luxury of brackish water like that compared to other countries which are bigger and have these vast areas of water.
Yes.
All right, so I do want to interrupt you very briefly. I'll ask you to put your headphones on. There's a caller, and we'll get to hear what he or she has to say. Good day, caller. You're live.
Well, greetings.
Yes, sir. Good day. Go ahead, please.
Okay, greetings to all. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Anyhow, okay, the bottom line is insufficient water, right? Supply and demand, right?
Yes.
Enough up. Okay, so apart from desalination, apart from the thing there, don't you think we think that we should be investing in? We rainfall is good, you know, and every outer line, we just do what we have to do to put it in, plant more trees. And the rainfall is good up to the time, but capturing the water, money need to go into that. Much more capturing the water. When we rainfall, we know, say, the minister said no for it go on the earth, but no for it run off too. I'm supplying ways of capturing it. Well, you know, rule out the system what you talk about, you know, but we need to do more to capture water when rain fall, to balance the thing. Within the scheme of things with supply and demand. Good thanks for the time.
Thank you as well, caller. Much appreciated. All right, so interesting point, because that's something that I've heard, that's something that I've seen play out on social media, people speaking to the fact that there seems to be quite a bit of runoff that is lost. But I know, based on what I've heard, that a lot of that, let's say, that debate might be better understood in terms of storage capacity.
Yes.
And so, oh, we do have another caller, so we'll table that point, and we'll listen again. Good day, caller, you're live.
Hi, good day. Water department, we appreciate the desal plan, but they dug up the road in Harborview when they were laying those pipes, the trench, or whatever. And they haven't come back to fix it. And they promised us on the bulletin board that this thing would be done as soon as they were finished.
Well, I thank you for bringing that to my attention. As a resident of Harborview myself, I'm definitely keen on ensuring that my community is in tip-top shape, so I'll be sure to funnel that message along, as will my colleagues here.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, because it's over 2 months now.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
All right. And again, that brings me to the other point, which is, I guess I could link both callers' comments and concerns or questions this way, which is to say that there was massive work being done to ensure that the desalination plant at Bastier was linked to the storage tank at Morn Peak. So as we're talking about storage capacity, storage tanks, everything seems to be interconnected. And we do apologize, of course, for the frustration which the residents seem to have suffered because that cleanup activity has not yet taken place. But when we talk about storage, what can you tell us that would perhaps allay the concerns of the first caller? What is the Water Services Department doing vis-a-vis storage capacity?
In areas where we have a lot of excess water, for example, Keon, we will be building a new storage tank, 500,000 gallons, and the elevation of this tank will be higher, so we are able to store more water. And across the island as well, we have projects next year to build more storage tanks.
Additionally, with the desalination plant being commissioned, the 2 million gallons of water, given that the plant runs 24 hours a day, we will be able to provide 2 million gallons of water, right? And so once we send this water to our storage tank, which would be Mount Peak, the water that has been or currently going there would be able to be distributed in other areas,
yes.
which also will assist with these interruptions. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so that's very good, and unfortunately we are out of time, so we'll have to table our discussion. Yes, time flies very quickly here when we begin to talk about the developments at the Water Services Department. But we will table the discussion on interconnection for another time, because that too forms part of ensuring that everyone returns to 24-hour supply. So I do want to thank you both for joining me today on this edition of The Waterline. We have, of course, Mr. Francis Zelaya, Plant Supervisor, and we do have Assistant Water Engineer, Ms. DeAndre Jean-Baptiste, forgive me. And my name is Jamie Morris, Communications Officer in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Energy, Utilities, and Domestic Transport, saying, have a good day, save water, every drop counts. Bye-bye.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing,